Welcome back. In this video, we're going to go over static versus dynamic text. The concepts that we're going to go over in this video applies towards text displays. We have quite a few text display elements. If we were just to pan over to the Elements tab and go to the text display, we have the block quote, the heading, the link, the paragraph, the rich text viewer, the text block. So all of these elements are text displays, and the concepts we're going to go over in this video applies to just about all of them. All right. So I currently have a heading element in the page. If we were to pan over to the element settings and look at the attributes of our elements, we can see that we are not using dynamic text. So whenever you have a text-based element, in fact, I'm just going to go ahead and pull another one in. All right. If you look at both of them, they both have this dynamic text attribute, right? And in both of them, you can see that it's not using dynamic text. So what this just means is that if there is not dynamic text provided, then the system is going to reference whatever static text is available, and it is going to default to the default language. Languages is a thing that we're going to cover in future videos. But just know that you can have multiple languages, and you could basically have the same text in multiple languages. And in your application, you could set the language. It always defaults to the default, but there is a function that can be used to change the language. You can do this when it uploads, maybe based on a route, based on whatever, based on maybe a user's input, maybe a user wants to see your application in a different language. Right, so just keep that in mind. But if I were to just go back to this, so we have this heading element and it's currently static. And this means that it's not dynamic. It's just this text is pretty much what you see, what you get. So because of it's static, if I double click into this, I basically get this WYSIWYG type interface. I could just type in here, and that's it. I basically changed the text. Now my static text has been updated. If I were to type in my heading static text inputs, the same effect applies. So let's say heading is great, and I know. And it's also real time, as you would expect from a system this powerful. And if I were to, let's say, click on it again, maybe if I wanted to, let's say, make something bold, or it's already bold. If I want to make it, italic, maybe underline it, maybe change the color to red. Okay. So you could do all those very cool things. So, this is just like, static text. The beauty of static text is that, it's just easy. You type it in. It doesn't change. But now let's go into dynamic text. So dynamic text is text that is based off the app data. All right. So currently here in my app data, I have a few initialized messages. Let me just go ahead to the live app data and change it. Change my heading text 1 to basically say this is dynamic. All right. Now I'm going to go back to my heading elements, and I'm going to say I want to use dynamic text. All right. Now our static text is gone. So now I must provide or point to my dynamic text. All right. We're going to use the script user interface, and we're going to reference our app data. So while we're in text mode, we can just type parameter, and we have a few options. We're going to pick the parameter app data, and I believe it's heading text 1. Now, because the app data is an object, I can map into it. All right. For it to close this out, well, I guess it's not the correct, or header text 1, not heading text 1. All right. Change that really quickly. All right. So I can see the app data field that I just pointed to. I could also use code for this. It's practically the same thing. If I were to just type in parameter dot app underscore data, header text 1, I still get my dynamic text. So we've quickly gone through static versus dynamic. Now this is a bonus one. All right, what if you wanted to have a mixture of both, right? If you wanted to have some static and some dynamic, right? How would you do that? So there are two ways to do this, all right? So if I were to go over back into my dynamic text, I could do something like this. Just using some basic JavaScript, I could say, this is static, and add that to my dynamic. And as you can see, this is static and this is dynamic, right? What if I didn't want to do this, right? What if I wanted to do something completely different? What if I wanted to reference some dynamic data from within some static data? All right, it's really simple. All I need to do is take this back to static. We go back to our old interface, our old text. It's right here. I'm going to click into it. I'm just go ahead and delete all this. All right. So what we're going to do here, just we're going to write something. We're going to replicate what we did before with the dynamic and static. So I'm going to say this is static. And now I'm going to use template strings. So double open, double close. And I'm just going to reference the header text 1. I believe that's what it's called. Yeah, header text 1. So I'm using template strings here. The second I click out of it, the system is going to resolve to our dynamic text. So if you notice, we do not reference the parameter and the app data. So by default, the template strings only applies to app data. So you do not need to have the parameter.app data. You could just reference the field and it would just pan into the field. And also, obviously, if this was, let's say, a nested field, you could use the dot notation to traverse the object. All right. So this has been a, quick dive into dynamic versus static text. All right. We've gone through the multiple ways that this works. We've seen all static with multiple languages. We've seen all dynamic. We've seen a mixture of dynamic and static using some logic. And we've basically gone over template strings. All right. So that's it for this video. See you in the next one.